let's talk about the COBB Accessport versus EcuTek tuning platform. It's no surprises both companies are actually owned by the same entity, even though they're two independent companies. From the back end, they're owned by the same people. So, but they are two very different companies and intended for two very different audiences. So, COBB is more intended for the end user, and EcuTek is more intended for the workshop. So, look, I love both of them. There's some days I go to use them and I'm like, oh, I want to use the other one, and like it's vice versa. So I'm very torn between both softwares because they both have their advantages one way or another. But at the end of the day, they are a tuning platform, and you can still do the exact same thing with both of them. They both have all the custom feature sets, all the flat foot shifting, flex fuel, all the good stuff they have between them. So they're essentially the same, but different in the sense of how you use it, and it really depends on you, the customer, or the workshop as to what direction you go. So it's always good to have the conversation with the workshop. But luckily for us, we have a COBB Pro Tuning license, and we also have a Pro Tuning for EcuTek, so we can use both. It makes no difference to us which way we go. But I guess if you're sitting on the fence as a customer and you're trying to go, oh, I don't know what way to go. Like back 2 years ago or 2 and a bit years ago, COBB removed all emission deletes from their software. However, luckily for the Australian market, they left it in there for Subaru. So you can still do emission deletes and all that with the Australian market, but only up to just before they went to the VB, went to the new model. So pretty much from the new model Subaru upwards, you can't do any emission deletes, but everything from that model down, you can, as far back to 2008, which it supports. So I guess the thing is like, what are the deciding factors? Why would you use one or the other? I guess so. Let's touch on the most obvious thing. So COBB supports your STIs and your WRXs, Australian market only. However, in the US market, they support all of the Subarus. Where EcuTek, they support all of the Subarus in the Australian market. So Liberties, Foresters, Outback, naturally aspirated, turbocharged, diesel model, etc. It does all of them, and it also does the Mitsubishis, your R35s, your Golfs, Audis, like all of them. So it covers a large range, and so does COBB. So COBB supports the V-dub, so your Mark 7, Mark 6, Mark 7, 7.5, it supports. Some Audi models, Porsches, etc. So they've got a very good reach in what they support. I would probably say from the Australian market perspective, EcuTek supports more cars. So from a platform in the sense as a workshop, EcuTek is a better workshop tool for us. As a workshop, it's a better tool because it's more versatile. We can use it across more cars. It also has the ability to return cars back to stock. Has the ability in the sense where you can read a car that's been previously tuned, and we can just pretty much put it straight back to stock. We can also relink some security stuff up. There's some more diagnostic stuff you can do with it, where COBB doesn't have that ability to do that. However, COBB does have the ability to put a stock calibration back in, but it doesn't allow you to revert it back to stock, so to speak. So EcuTek is really good in that sense. Another thing where EcuTek is good is that if a car comes to you that's been previously tuned with EcuTek, and it does have like a tuner lock or something like that on there, we can just put the car back to stock with it. It doesn't affect us whether the car's locked out. However, if a car comes to us that's been tuned with EcuTek and you're going to use COBB on it, well, you can't, because COBB won't work on it unless it's reverted back to stock. So this is where having both tools for us is great. So if a customer comes to us, he's got a COBB device, he wants to tune it, but it's been previously tuned with EcuTek, we can put it back to stock, so then we can use the COBB device. So both tools sort of work together in that sense. But the biggest advantage of the COBB for the customer, being yourself, is that COBB has off-the-shelf tuning available. So they support their product with maps, pre-made maps that are really, really good. They work very well, and sometimes it's very hard to beat their maps. So, you got a Subaru or a Golf or whatever, and you want to just buy the device from our website, you can buy it, unwrap it, plug it into your car, load a calibration onto it, pick the right calibration, obviously, and away you go. Very intuitive, very easy to use. You don't need to be, too crazy to use it. If you know how to use apps and all that sort of stuff, it just walks you through it. It's very simple to do. So from a customer perspective, COBB gets the win. It's better for the customer, better for you. And it's even easier if you want us to send a calibration to you, for example, if you're interstate or whatever, we can email you a calibration. Very simple to do. EcuTek does have its own phone flash. Now, it's a little bit more clunky in the sense of how it functions and works. The COBB side of things works a lot smoother, where EcuTek does have a similar thing, but just a little bit more hurdles you got to run through to make it work. So, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. As far as tunability wise, you can achieve the same result with both softwares. But yeah, it just really, it's user preference, workshop preference. For this example, this customer came to us with this Subaru WRX. It was previously done on COBB. We were going to go to EcuTek. However, he's got the COBB device. Why are we going to change it? Keep it on COBB. There's nothing wrong with COBB. It's a good device. I prefer COBB over EcuTek. I prefer it and the reasons why I prefer it is that I prefer it because it's easier for you, the customer, for us to support you, for us to give you support, look after you, send you tunes, make tune adjustments, etc. It is easier for you as a customer. However, as a tuner, EcuTek is easier for us as a tuner. So when a car comes to us to tune it, it's easier because I plug it directly to my laptop, I make the calibration, I tune it, I data log it, I make everything all from one pass in my laptop without having to disconnect and plug and muck around and use different logging softwares and all that sort of stuff. So, it's more work for us to use COBB. Well, a little bit more work to use COBB, but it's easier for you. And at the end of the day, you're the person using it on the other end. So it's better for you to use the COBB. However, as a workshop, EcuTek is much better as a workshop. But if you're that sort of person who just loves to put a tune in it, forget about it and move on with their life, well, EcuTek's the better way to go. The other thing is EcuTek actually works out cheaper because COBB, you've got to buy the Accessport and then you've got to pay a tuner later to do the calibration. But on the other side of it is you can use their off-the-shelf tunes, which are really good, so you don't need to buy a calibration. Then you've got EcuTek. You pay for a license and then you pay your tuner to do it. Now, the other good thing is with EcuTek is that if it has been previously tuned with EcuTek, well, then it doesn't need the license fee because the license fee actually passes on to the VIN. So someone, you could have bought a car of someone who's had their car tuned years ago on EcuTek. Well, the license has already been paid, so you don't have to pay it. So sometimes a car will come to me that we're going to use COBB on, but it's been licensed with EcuTek. So we just use EcuTek because it's cheaper and easier for the customer. So I'm probably sort of messing your head up in this case of, which way do you go? I guess at the end of the day is talk to the person that you're going to work with, tell them what you're going to do, let them make the decision. We will make the right decision that suits you as a customer, that's going to work financially better for you and give you the result that you want to do. But if you just want to buy it online, take it away, put it on your car, load a tune in it, COBB gets the win, hands down. It is the better device. I prefer using the COBB tuning software because it's easier and nicer, you know what I mean? So I can talk about the negatives and positives between both software and they both cancel each other out every single time. But from a standpoint, EcuTek, unfortunately, fortunately, it does cover more models of cars in the Australian market. So it is a more versatile tool. It is a tool that we do use more than COBB. However, every opportunity I get to use COBB, I will take the opportunity to use it because I actually do enjoy using the COBB. I actually call it a fun day when a car's booked in to use the Accessport and the tuning software because it's very nice to use. But once again, you as the customer, COBB is better suited for yourself. If you like to tinker around and play with things and adjust your rev limiter and launch control and all that sort of stuff. But EcuTek also gives you that ability to do some of that functionality through the steering wheel. So, I could talk about it for hours. Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm going to get people who are going to say COBB's better. People are going to say EcuTek's better. At the end of the day, it comes down to functionality, what's going to work for you, what does your tuner recommend, what do you personally prefer to use, and so on. And obviously, what model car do you have? You might not have a car that it supports. So, but I hope I haven't messed your head up with this video too much, but I hope I've given you some insight to the back end of it. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.